first group of crew members of the TeleSUR plane kidnapped by the Argentine justice system arrived Friday in Venezuela. Puerto Rico sees heavy rains as Storm Fiona approaches from the southeast. In Africa, the Republic of Guinea's justice system begins a trial of the 2019 massacre in which the army killed 159 people in a stadium. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the TeleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. The first group of crew members of the TeleSUR plane kidnapped by the Argentine justice system arrived Friday in Venezuela. The group landed at the international airport of Maiquetía Simón Bolívar Friday afternoon on a flight which originated in Buenos Aires, Argentina, with a stopover in La Cruz, Bolivia. The release order was granted by Argentinian Judge Federico Villena in compliance with the ruling issued by La Plata's Court of Appeals. 7 of the 19 crew members, 4 Iranian and 3 Venezuelan, remain detained in Argentina due to the prolongation of a judicial process, which so far has not provided any evidence of their guilt. The crew members were received at the airport by their relatives and national authorities.
I'm extremely excited to be back, really being here, sharing with our family, returning to our country, fills us with emotion. A part of us stayed there, stay with our colleagues who didn't come, but we hope that soon they will be back with us, and much was said about us. The only thing that wasn't said was the truth, that we are workers, pilots, flight attendants, cargo masters. We went to work for our country and they call us everything, but what we really are, good people, good citizens. Yes, well, I'm very happy to be back in my homeland, back in my country with my family. Very grateful for the efforts made by the Venezuelan state through the companies and TeleSUR and Conviasa to bring us back to our country with our families, our homeland, our land where we belong. I'm quite happy to finally arrive to our country. At least we are here, although it's sad because some members of the crew are left behind, but we are happy.
In Brazil, presidential candidate Luis Ignacio Lula da Silva defended during a campaign event the need to separate the state from the various religious confessions. The leader of the coalition Together for Brazil stated during a meeting with evangelical followers in Rio de Janeiro that the state should not have a religion or a church, rather it should guarantee the functioning of religious freedom for all the churches that the people decide to create. The former president stressed the importance of maintaining credibility when occupying governmental positions and emphasized that those who aspire to public office must communicate their intentions to the population. Lula reiterated that during his next government he will give priority to the protection of the poor. In Peru, the government has approved a new extension of the state of exception for the metropolitan areas of Lima and Callao for 45 more days. So far, the next 45 days, the police will maintain order with the support of the armed forces. During that period, there is a suspension of citizens' constitutional rights relating to the inviolability of homes, freedom of transit, freedom of assembly, as well as personal freedom and physical integrity. The government has resorted to the state of exemption in an effort to curb violence and insecurity in the said regions. Salvadoran President Nayib Bukele announced his intention to be re-elected in the presidential elections of 2024, despite the fact that this would be an illegal act. According to analysts, the head of state's re-election intention violates at least 6 articles of the country's constitution. The president would take advantage of a ruling of the Supreme Electoral Court that indicates that a person who holds the presidency of El Salvador and has not been president in the immediately preceding period may participate in the electoral race for a second time. In this context, members of other political parties rejected President Bukele's announcement, assuring that the president is in flagrant violation of national laws. And Tropical Storm Fiona is already over the waters of the Caribbean Sea, and the U.S. National Hurricane Center forecasts that it will strengthen into hurricane over the next 48 hours. Slight readjustments have emerged in the official track, and Tropical Storm Fiona's center of circulation is now forecast to pass about 30 miles south of Cabo Rojo, Puerto Rico. This would leave the strongest part of the winds and rains over the Virgin Islands and all of Puerto Rico. This is why a hurricane watch has been issued for all of Puerto Rico. It will pass at its closest point in Puerto Rico on Sunday. Then the future Hurricane Fiona will move to the east of the Dominican Republic. According to recent projections, Fiona may bring 100 km/h winds and total rainfall accumulations that may exceed 400 millimeters of rain. In Haiti, popular mobilizations continue in rejection of the sharp increase in fuel prices amid the crisis facing the nation. The Haitians continue protests in the streets of Port-au-Prince, the nation's capital, where disturbances have been reported at schools and other government buildings. There were also demonstrations in front of the headquarters of the United Nations World Food Program, where some 1,400 tons of food are known to be in storage. Demonstrators went to the government to regulate fuel prices, to stop inflation, as well as the gang violence plaguing major cities. Let us review the contents and purposes of the new Family Code, a legal instrument submitted to the consideration of the Cuban people.
Through the consultation of September the 25th, the people of Cuba will decide whether to adopt a new family code designed to increase civil rights within the framework of the social transformation of recent years in Cuba and the world. The text, composed of 11 titles and 474 articles, establishes solidarity and affection as the pillars on which family relationships are raised, and conceives the family as a union of people linked by affective, sentimental, and psychological ties without distinction of gender. The proposal emphasizes special support for women as the caretakers in most families and provider for the economic value of work in homes, as well as economic protection for those who work as housekeepers and caretakers. 4 types of filiation are contemplated in the code: natural procreation, adoption, assisted reproduction techniques, and bonds resulting from social affectivity, a concept that recognizes and regulates multiparentality both in birth and at later stage. It also mandates the creation of institutions to manage sanctions for domestic violence against vulnerable persons and extends rights to sexual diversities. Among the main detractors of the initiative are the religious sectors, especially the Conference of Catholic Bishops of Cuba, which consider that the text introduces gender ideology in the legislation and deforms the natural basis of the family. The debate on equal marriage in Cuba was also on the table during the drafting of the 2019 Constitution. At the same time, its approval was not possible due to the intense rejection of the Christian churches among other social sectors.
Let us take a short break now. Join us again after this. Welcome back to From the South. In the framework of the commemoration of national independence, President Andrés Manuel López Obrador denounced the interest behind armed conflicts in the world. During his speech at the commemorative events, the President said that his country will present to the UN General Assembly a proposal to stop the conflict in Ukraine and to achieve a 5-year truce in favor of peace between the parties. He also stated that the supply of arms to Kiev and the sanctions against Moscow aggravated the conflict in Eastern Europe and increased inflation and food shortages at a global level. AMLO urged the creation of a peace committee mediated by the Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, Pope Francis, and the Secretary General of the UN, Antonio Guterres, in order to seek an end to hostilities and promote rapprochement between the presidents of Russia and Ukraine.
Interest groups in position of governmental or economic power work hard to steer politics towards armed conflict, and once this mistake has been made, instead of making amends, they choose to deepen it without caring about the suffering they inflict on humanity or the damage they cause to the stability of nations and the well-being of societies.
The Mexican president stated that the United Nations organization is inactive and prey to formalism to face of global conflicts and crises.
The United Nations remains inactive and as if erased, prey of a formalism and political ineffectiveness that leave it in a merely ornamental role. Even more reprehensible is the behavior of the great powers that explicitly or silently adopt a position towards the conflict only to serve their hegemonic interests.
Finally, the Mexican president stated that governing should not be a hegemonic exercise and should be used to serve others.
Without peace, there will be neither economic growth nor justice. Governing should not be an exercise of hegemony or domination, but above all, the search for the well-being of the people. Power only makes sense and becomes a virtue when it is placed at the service of others.
President López Obrador stated that his country will continue to demand the release of Australian journalist Julian Assange.
Julian Assange, the Quixote of our time, of the freedom of expression, and who remains unjustly in prison, and from this public square, the main square of the Mexican Republic, we commit ourselves to continue demanding the freedom of Julian Assange.
We have more news coming up after a final short break, so don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. The Republic of Guinea announced this Friday that it would begin the hearing for 2009 massacre, scheduled for September 28, 13 years after the event. The judicial investigation ended in December 2017 with a referral to court of 1,000 defendants, including Moussa Dadis Camara. It came after rights advocates pushed in that direction on behalf of the fight against the widespread impunity they claim in this country with a troubled political history, as well as the International Criminal Court, which sent a delegation in early September to assess progress of preparations. This trial would have been delayed since 2017 despite recurring commitments by the authorities under the regime of former President Alpha Condé 2010-2021, overthrown by a military coup a year ago.
I therefore ask all the actors involved in this process, which is about to begin and has already begun, to ensure that our country can emerge from this process, which will revisit our history, our past, but that we all come out of this process with a new vision of Guinea.
I'm very pleased to be able to give my opinion on what happened today with the Minister of Justice in relation to this date that we have waited for so long, which has now been set for next September the 28th. We are really very satisfied. It was about time that we got to this trial, and I would say that I am very comfortable today.
This Saturday, over 20 million Shiite Muslims from Iran and other nations are gathering in the holy city of Karbala, Iraq, for the Arbaeen pilgrimage, considered the world's largest public gathering. Shiite Muslims mourn the martyrdom of Imam Hussein, grandson of Prophet Muhammad and founding leader of Shiism, in order to initiate various religious, cultural, and social activities. Each Muslim pilgrim who comes to the holy city symbolizes the triumph of truth over lies and the battle against injustice and oppression, reasons why the third Imam of the Shiites and 72 cameras were sacrificed in the 7th century. The government of Iran encourages the participation of its people in the pilgrimage as a way of making this confession international visibly. In Pakistan, water levels are beginning to recede after historic floods recorded in the southern province of Sindh. The reduction in water levels represents a potentially positive sign in the midst of the serious situation. The Indo River flows are returning to normal levels as it flows towards the Arabian Sea. The serious humanitarian situation persists due to the downpours that claimed the lives of more than 1,500 people, devastated houses, bridges, and crops. According to economic estimates, the cost of the catastrophe could reach $30 billion. This September 24th, the TeleSUR invites you to see a brand new documentary titled Alex Saab, a kidnapped diplomat. The audiovisual features testimonies from lawyers, experts, and family members of Alex Saab, including his wife Camila Fabry. All of them will reveal details never known before about the first kidnapping of a diplomat in the history of the world. It also compiles the actions taken by the U.S. government towards countries and individuals to ambush Saab in Cape Verde. Authorities in the island country imprisoned the Venezuelan high government official without an arrest warrant against him. Don't miss the documentary Alex Saab, a kidnapped diplomat, only on TeleSUR. And like this, we have come to the end of this news briefing. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Telegram. And now, you can also follow us on TikTok at the account at TeleSUR English, in which you will be able to see news in different formats, news updates, and much more. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.